All right, everybody. Welcome back to another great episode of the Red, White, and You Show with yours truly, the military medium. Today, I have a returning guest with me, Shaun Kosta, director and all-around great guy. And he's going to share more about his film project and what he has going on here in a minute. Shaun joined us on the radio show quite some time back. And it was such a pleasure chatting with him. We decided to bring him back, and we thought, SCARS is such a great project, and it was bringing great awareness about PTSD. And I don't want to get too much into it, but Shaun, welcome to the Red, White, and You Show.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely, we're happy to have you. So, share with the listeners and the viewers a little bit who Shaun Kosta is.
I'm a Gemini. Just kidding. I'm not kidding about that. I'm a Gemini. There's some discrimination against Geminis, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm a filmmaker and screenwriter, and I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm originally from Oregon, Portland, Oregon. And yeah.
Okay, very cool. And so, in your background, how long have you been doing filmmaking, Shaun?
I've been doing it a long time, over a decade. Commercials, and I did one feature film, The Republic of Two, and I do a lot of screenwriting too, and so yeah, a combination of that.
Very cool. So, it's interesting. I remember back, well, it would have been not quite a year yet, but when we had you on, but, reaching out to our good friend, I should share, is Suzanne De Laurentiis. And
she's so great.
Oh, she is such an awesome individual. And, and when I said, hey, do you, now that you've been on the show, is there somebody else that you might know of that, that you might know that would be a good fit? And one of the people that she sent out was your name. And it was really cool when I started connecting, talking about SCARS. And, I'm so honored to have a copy of the book that your movie is based on. So,
written by Father Berg, Richard Berg.
We were chatting about Richard or Dick or whatever you want to call him. He doesn't care as long as late for supper, right? It's like he is such he is such a easy guy to talk to, and
he's a great guy
and non-formal type guy. We had him on the show as well. So share with us a little bit the synopsis of the movie and kind of take us through that birth of it.
Of course. The SCARS, it's a drama action screenplay. It's not a movie yet. It's only a screenplay right now.
Oh, my apologies.
It's about a medic with post-traumatic stress disorder, returns to Oregon, Portland, Oregon, from war in Afghanistan. And he must find a way to save his family's vineyard and save himself. He saw hell in Afghanistan. And he's got to learn how to get home and save the vineyard.
I found I found it really interesting that taking this book, which is actually written about actual people. There's a whole handful of stories, and I guess just to share a little of the background, Father Berg or Richard. Through his counseling as a priest, has counseled a lot of.
He's also a doctorate in psychology.
Right, and he also teaches or he has taught. I should share, right. But in his counseling with soldiers that were dealing with PTSD and TBI and all that. He started collecting some of the stories.
Right.
And so this fictional storyline is based upon the narrative of the book, correct?
Right, correct.
So, which is really powerful because obviously in your movie, it takes us, like you shared, take us through What I thought was really cool, it takes us through all the stages. So pre-Afghanistan, briefly
Right.
during deployment, and then after, because the pre and after parts are kind of the big ones, right?
Right, right. And, also the book and the forthcoming film are about not just the veteran, the service member dealing with learning how to live with post-traumatic stress, also his family.
Right.
And the book is specifies that for sure, like the mom and an aunt, like the whole family,
Right.
girlfriend, like it takes a village to, shoot, always said to raise a kid, but certainly to be a successful parent, a successful brother or sister, a successful anyone. So
Well, I
yeah,
think that's important, Shaun, when you bring that up, talking about when you have somebody dealing with the trauma, you don't personally have to be dealing with it yourself. But if you
right.
have somebody going through it, guess what? If you're close to that individual, you're going to kind of walk, not necessarily that specific journey, but you're going to walk alongside them, correct?
Alongside, no doubt, no
Right.
doubt.
And all
It,
the, how do I want to say, all the challenges or obstacles that come along with that. I think there was some scenes in there where talking about the flashbacks and different
right.
trigger moments and all that, and trying to deal with that. Now, one of the things that was interesting, because I think one of the characters in the book, um, you'll have to help me remember, was now wasn't there a dog worked in there as well that was pretty significant?
In the book, a dog,
Okay.
yeah, because not in the screenplay
Hmm.
in the forthcoming film, but Dick was insistent on having a dog in there in the book in the
Sure.
story, and the reason being because the company of a dog, of an animal,
Right,
is
right,
really therapeutic for some people.
right. Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. So take us through. So, so Richard writes this book, or he starts
Mhm.
putting it together,
Right.
and he reaches out to you, right?
Yeah.
So kind of take us through that. Like, how does even like this book, and I know that's kind of his story, but there's that connection of you over here and him over here. How did the two meet? And you all of a sudden you got this screenplay.
I'll tell
Or
you what is a fun connection. One of the most important and fulfilling connections of my life so far, and he's got friends, he's got people in his church, he's got people he knows near and dear to him. He was like, I don't know anything about Hollywood. I don't know anything about filmmaking, anything. Do you know anyone who does? And can we make that connection? And they suggested me, Bob Harold, and his wife Sue did, and Greg Hadley was another. But they're like, yeah, call this guy. And so, I'm in Los Angeles. I grew up in Portland, Lake Oswego. He's in Portland and Lake Oswego too right now, and so it was an easy connection there with that.
sure.
Uh, and so yeah, I mean, we started talking a lot about like how we're talking right now. We sat down and said, okay, here are the facts. We know that the military teaches how to kill and protect others,
Yep.
but how do they stop having that instinct
Mhm.
once they're back from deployment? It's a paradox in working with service members, and how these skills fit into culture and context in the US after deployment. How does that happen? How does that work? And you're trained to face death with fearlessness, and it may make it easier to take one's own life. And that's really the truth of it. And it's a crisis right now with veterans returning from war, and trying to get acclimated back, and having intense psychological and mental suffering, and having cognitive construction, like tunnel vision, like
Right.
they don't see a way forward. And military culture, it's not amenable going and asking for help from others. It's not. I mean, it's
Mm,
better now than it was, for sure. And what's the meaning of life, and having people help you find that. And now, thankfully, like I said, there's science and empirical evidence to help treat this effectively. And that professional treatment, it's essential. It's essential. And so, Scars integrates some of these issues into an easy to digest and entertaining narrative. It's entertainment
sure.
first.
Sure.
And, like we were talking about Father Berg, Dick, he's also a doctor. And the team up in Portland, they want to have, after the movie's done, it's not done yet, viewing parties to discuss the points of PTSD for the veteran, and also his family, and the suffering that's going on into the film, and during the film. And that can, for some, people will not be really interested in that, because it's not a message movie. This is not didactic. It's not preachy at all. It's entertainment first, and having integrated in there ways for the veteran and his family uh, to learn how to live with this, learn how to
Right.
live with it.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's the fun and exciting thing is Dick and Greg Hadley and Bob Harold. Like, it's not a matter of getting this movie made to make money. It's going to be put together with a 501c3 up in Oregon, so it's a nonprofit. It's not a way to make money. It's a way to help people understand and discuss things. It's not like parading around, like I said, as having the message or the answer.
Mm,
It does not. It gets the conversation going, and like I said, Father Burr wants to have viewing parties and wants to connect with people in that way too. But as like with it's, and my uncle, my friend, they don't like to be preached to. They don't like anything didactic, like anything parading around saying, hey, we have the answers. I know you're suffering. I know that in the back coffers of your mind, like when it's dark and you're trying to get some sleep, it's, I know it's hard, but here, check this out. It's not that. It's not a message movie, like I said. And but it's a project like Scars. Like, it's not just a movie. It's also putting together a way to go beyond that with
sure.
yeah.
Well, sometimes too, Shaun, the thing that I found personally too is when you start having those conversations, about PTSD or whatever, a lot of times indirect conversations are the best, or indirect activities. So for example,
Right.
if I got a bunch of veterans together and we started, let's just go fishing. We didn't talk anything about,
Right.
nothing was mentioned about PTSD. It was just like, let's go fishing. That was
Right.
it. And
Yeah.
then maybe in the midst of it, you just start talking. And
Maybe it's
then maybe it,
intimacy,
right,
connection, human connection.
human connection and storytelling, and
Right.
you start opening up, right? And in that
Right.
connection piece, it's like, and you just, starts popping out, or, talking about stories or activities. So,
Right.
sometimes
That's
it's more of a
therapeutic.
vehicle, or, something indirect
Right.
is more direct than, I know it sounds weird, but
That's a paradox.
something,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And it's like I mentioned my family. I have a lot of veterans who are combat veterans in my family.
do And your family's a proud veteran family?
Oh, very, very, very proud. I don't know if I mentioned before on like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, it's a matter of like throwing a bunch of flowers in the truck and going around Memorial Day specifically to graves and putting flowers on the graves
Sure.
and remembering those past. And that's
Nice.
been a big part of my life for a long, long time, my
Nice.
whole life. And it's and my uncle, who's thankfully living happily in Oregon, in the mountains in Oregon. He's a Vietnam vet, and he is a mountain man to the nth degree. Like he is incredible. But he's also, like we were saying, to apropos of what we were saying about not being, having a message for someone to digest, whatever. He'll turn away, and my friends will too. If they get the sense that something's preachy and something's
Yeah.
trying to have a message, they will turn off like that. And
Right.
so it's, that's a reason why this is going to be entertaining first. There's going to be some dark times, like being very honest about that. And my uncle is too, like honest about that. And getting
Sure.
up there and, in the story, in the narrative, there are points of levity. There are points of laughter. Like it's like any good drama has points of levity. Makes it easier to digest, easier to be entertaining for all.
Well, and it's reflective of real life, right? It's
Right.
authentic.
Of
It's
course.
not
Yeah.
BS, as somebody would say.
There's no BS. No BS.
Right in your face. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how, I mean, obviously, this whole COVID-19 issue has affected the film industry and TV and everything
Right.
tremendously. But where are you guys in the process of the movie, and how has this COVID-19 issue or pandemic affected
Right.
the project?
Well, as far as the project goes now, like I said, it's a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. And there's a website now that's up that's going to be changed soon as well. But the website that you can check out now is scarstherapy.org. And the funny thing is, and Dick and I were laughing about it, it's a lot of people when they Google that, they're like, all right, it's a skin thing, like skin therapy. Like he's like, no, 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 it's not that. So that's up there now, scarstherapy.org. You can learn about how to donate and how
Sure.
to watch the process and see the process. But the new site is going to be ptsdscars.org. So that's better. That's a little more specific to what the purpose of
Okay.
all this is.
And we'll make sure we have
Skin
your,
can be.
oh, it's no skin grafting site for
Oh,
sure, right? Well, and we'll make sure we have your website up on the screen too. I think that's really important to make sure folks know if they want to donate or go check out
right,
what you guys are doing,
right,
um, and all that. But I want to talk some more about the movie, obviously, and tying back into what. So you mentioned that you come from a huge veteran background or
yeah,
family.
family.
What feedback have you gotten from your family? Have they been pretty receptive or kind of tentative?
In what regard?
As far as like wondering how the movie is, or and I know that they know you, but
Right,
it's like how are they? And I know the movie isn't out yet, but how are they? Are they aware of this project? And if
right.
so, how are they? How are they receiving that?
You know, it's funny. Thanks for asking that because it gives me an opportunity to brag about my uncle, who's the most incredible, tough as nails mountain man up in Oregon.
Sure.
I was like, Uncle Tom, I'm doing this thing with this book. Like, and the idea of, I read the book and you read the book too. So I'm
Yep.
like, okay, Father Berg, this is a great opportunity for me to be able to better communicate with my uncle and my
Mm.
friends and other family members
Yep.
who are vets who have, varying degrees of traumatic stress.
Sure.
And my uncle specifically, he was like, heck yeah. He said something a little more profane, but he said, yeah, of course, of course. And so he loves the idea because he knows me and he
Yeah.
knows that I'm gonna, I'm gonna make a good movie once we get to that stage.
Right.
He knows that, but he also knows that I have a lot of respect for veterans, for our country, and for. Sorry, I had a call coming in. He understands that I have a lot of respect for country and service, and so he loves that. He knows that also we have a lot of laughs together. You were talking about fishing. I go fishing all the time with him, fly fishing, just out there throw a dry fly in a
Okay.
lake. Like, and he and I have talked about, shoot the breeze.
Sure.
We talk about, you life and, this crazy time. So yeah, to answer your question, everyone is very receptive and very
Okay.
open and excited. They're excited because, again, like I said, it's creating something that is easy to digest and entertaining, and also something that, here and there is very honest about what's going on with people who are suffering. Like, there are people who are suffering greatly right now. And maybe some people who are suffering who are listening to your podcast too. And so it's about respecting them and respecting the process, and having an open conversation about, okay, we're not trying to solve, your problems. It's just trying to get things, have a conversation about it.
Right. Right. Um, so in the work that you do, and you talk about your uncle quite a bit, so obviously he's been a big influence on your life, and
Yeah.
that's awesome to hear. Who has been somebody that has been an influence, or kind of an inspiration, if you will, in your work and in your life?
As far as film specifically, or as
Well, it
far
can
as
be, well,
anything?
film, and then if you have it separated out, it can be film and life in general,
Life.
or if you're
Yeah.
inspired by more than one, that's fine.
I'll tell you, my mom, who's a neuro rehab physical therapist, one of the best ever, best of the best. She's my uncle's sister.
Okay.
And so she's influential, in a big, big way for everything I do. And I come from a medical family. I mean, not a filmmaking family. My dad's a retired surgeon. And so it's like, with my mom, she's still practicing physical therapy. Like, I look at it as much as I can as a non-doctor, these non-doctor eyes. I look at it from a clinical sort of approach, at least initially, and then I really dive in and get into the narrative. But yeah, my family, in large part, a great deal for life and for and so much, back to scars. Like, that's what the story's about too, is acknowledging and creating family. If you don't have family, you find it and you create it. It's about finding a purpose. Hopefully you have someone helping you in that journey,
Mm,
and who's family member. And like I said, if they're not actual blood relatives, they're your family,
right. Right.
your friends who are family. I mean, as far as filmmakers, I mean they're the greats, of course, Scorsese, and I would say more recently, like David O. Russell, I love his approach. I love
Sure.
his films. He
Nice.
did The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg,
Okay.
uh, Christian Bale, and Silver Linings Playbook. Like and the reason why I mentioned David O. Russell, because he's awesome, but also too, he has a real touch working with actors. And like his actors, like they've gone off to win a bunch of Oscars. As you know, Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook, uh, and The Fighter, Christian Bale. And that's important for this story because we're there for the actors to feel comfortable and do their best work. And I'm there to be, the most captive audience on earth on the day while we're filming. Like I need to be able to elicit the best of, them working with their tools as performers, as actors. And so yeah, I think that's why I love David O. Russell's work. And I'll say too, you're up in Fargo, right?
Yep. Yep. Eastern North Dakota. Yep.
Fargo, incredible. The
Movie. Yes.
Coen Brothers, yeah, that's an incredible one. But yeah, no, David O. Russell, and has a combination of heart, and he respects people going through their stuff in both those movies, Silver Linings Playbook and The Fighter. Those actors just had their hearts out, and he does a wonderful job at capturing that. And so that's the goal with Scars the movie, the forthcoming movie.
Nice. So you mentioned switching gears completely here. You mentioned earlier about with your uncle, you out fishing. You
Right.
do a little fly fishing. Are you a big fly fisherman?
I used to be.
Okay. So I
I used to
gotta
tie flies myself. It's
okay.
not well, not well,
Well, that's better than
but
I can do, I guess.
well, it's fun process. Yeah.
So I gotta ask you, what is your favorite fly?
Uh, a nymph, I guess.
Okay.
Getting in
And
there, the fun thing about the fly fishing the process is you got to get in and study. Okay, what's the hatch? Like, what flies are hatching now? And like, okay, what part of the river are we in? Like,
mhm,
what's going to be the most attractive fly to help
sure.
get that get that trout or salmon or whatever the case may be. I'm no expert, clearly, on fly fishing.
So I
I'm
will
no expert. I don't pretend to be, but it's
so I,
fun to go out and try.
I'll have to tell you a funny story about fly
Yeah.
fishing because I don't fly fish, but many years ago, I wanted to learn, and I bought a really cheap fly rod and reel. And I grew up in northern Minnesota in an area called Rainy Lake, and known for its northern pike and walleye
Right.
and bass. And so beautiful lakes, beautiful country. Long story short, my brother and I were up there camping and fishing up in the North Woods and on the lake. And I thought, I'm going to give this fly rod a try. At least I'm going to try
Yeah.
casting. And so I thought I needed me in my head. I was totally novice, still am, but I was
Right.
like, I need to have a weight. That's what I was thinking. I need to have a weight at the end. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to put a little tiny bobber on the end just to give me enough weight to get it out
Yeah.
there. You know how many welts I had on
Well,
myself? And I was like, I kept on. So,
well, it's a process. You're
it was,
learning.
yeah. So, but the thing that I one of the things that I've noticed was it is almost, if you're not whipping yourself, fishing or a similar activity or something, whatever,
Right.
trips your trigger, so to speak, can be very meditative, right? It
Oh
can
yeah,
almost
very much
be,
so.
it's just you lose yourself in it and you're
Yeah.
not thinking about all the worries or hey, I got to, the agendas of the day. And
Right.
so yeah, and it's always, and I grew up fishing as well, a little bit different fishing, but it was like, yeah, so it can be it's cool. It's certainly very fun. So
There's
Shaun,
something poetic about casting your fly, just the image of that. Of
right,
course,
it
there are
is.
books like The River Why. Have you read that?
I haven't, but I don't know who hasn't seen a river runs through it. So
Yeah, of course. Of course.
very, very iconic.
Right.
And it's almost kind of romantic, right? I know I
Right.
served
Sure.
3 years in Alaska, and of course, a lot of people fly fish for salmon, king salmon, and
Sure.
it's very iconic seeing people out there with their fly rods. And
Right.
yeah, so there's almost something romantic about it, or invokes those images, anyways.
Right. Right.
Well, Shaun, I wanted to ask, so what's next? What's next? I know that you're once the wheels of the machine start turning again, you guys are going to eventually finish, filming and editing and all that great stuff. But are you guys working on any new projects or kicking around some ideas?
I mean, yeah, of course, always. But as far as right now it's a fundraising phase.
Sure. Okay.
And that's a process too, and actually a fun process. People can follow on scarstherapy.org or ptsdscars.org,
Sure.
and they can learn how they can get involved, how they can see the
Nice.
process, how they can donate, and going from there. But so it's a focus on that right now. It's a focus
Nice.
on that. As
Well,
far as
maybe if
like,
there's,
go
hopefully if
ahead.
there's somebody listening that would be like, hey, I want to get involved in that, that's a worthy cause, or I'm
Yeah,
feeling really guided, whatever the case is, they
right.
can go check out your website. Where can they go on social media if they want to? Do you guys have any, is that also Scars, or do you guys have any Facebook page, Twitter, all that?
Not yet, but we will, and that'll be connected onto these sites. Right
Okay.
now, it's just a site,
Okay.
early stages, but yeah, that will be there in the future for sure.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. There are going to
Well,
be newsletters and everything, so people can connect up with on these sites as
I,
well.
I love it.
So,
I love
yeah,
it. Well, of course, we wish you well. And,
thank you.
we'd be remiss if we didn't say thank you again for being a guest today, and keep doing what you're doing. Cause obviously, I know you keep on saying, hey, we're focused on entertainment first, but there is the healing properties and,
Right,
qualities of this. So keep
right.
doing what you're doing, Shaun. You're making a change in the world, and that's what we need. So it's really exciting when we're able to.
Thank you. That's very much the goal.
So, but thanks once again for being a guest on the Red, White, and You show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.